Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Newsgram. Today I'm going to introduce you to a man named David Goodman. David is a natural-born storyteller. He's fascinated by history. He studies martial arts. He's also a construction worker. He's a certified crane operator who also writes fiction novels. Now, crane operation is a demanding job. It requires constant awareness under all kinds of different working conditions. And as you can probably imagine, falling asleep on the job can be very dangerous.
I had a buddy of mine, and he fell asleep. He was on his crane. And I guess they called themselves playing a joke on him. And what they done was they got some string and got a cardboard, and they put it across him because he was sitting, leaning against his crane, sleep. And so when he woke up, he seen a little cardboard around his neck saying, "You fired."
You don't want to fall asleep. But what do you do when you have a large block of downtime and you're sleep deprived? David tapped into his storytelling talents.
A buddy of mine named Colton Carr said, "What are you writing?" I said, "Here, read this." So he read it. Then he gave it to Joseph Miles. He read it. He said, "You need to go ahead and finish writing it." And so those two guys inspired me to finish writing this book.
And the book he wrote is called The Adventures of Norvell Jamison. And I'm telling you right now, Norvell is not a good guy. He's an anti-hero. Because despite all his deeds, I think you're still going to like him. He's a real-life example of what can happen when you push a person a little too far.
Norvell, he was born in the son and daughter of sharecroppers. And Norvell always stood out from the rest of the kids because he was getting in all sorts of trouble, and he had a real bad temper. But the thing that actually really pushed him over the edge is when he saw his best friend get killed. That traumatized him. At the time now, Norvell was 8 years old. So when he seen his best friend get killed, that pushed him over the edge, and he became a whole totally different person from that day forth. Over time, his temper grew just as well as his size.
Norvell saw his best friend beaten to death by Klansmen. Now that left a mark on a boy that grew up to be a very big, very bad dude. And something else I found interesting about him was he was based on a real guy.
The guy that I based my book on, he was a big old guy. He was 6'7", about 300 pounds. This guy was hell on wheels, man. He was hell on wheels.
So Norvell is a fictional character, based on a real guy, and he was a bit of a bad seed from the very beginning. But seeing his best friend get killed, that flipped a switch that unleashed a monster.
He was a bad guy. He terrorized the whole community. The thing that really saved the community was he ended up going off to war. When he went out to war, everybody started celebrating.
A reading from the book, The Adventures of Norvell Jamison by David Goodman. The year was 1917, and the world was at war. Every country around the world was involved in the global conflict. The United States was a latecomer to the fray, but it would have a major impact on the outcome of the war. The American doughboys, as they were called, came from all over the country to make the world safe for democracy. One particular person, Norvell Jamison, had his own reason for going to war. Norvell had an appetite for violence and a lust for blood. Abraham, Norvell's father, asked him, "Skippy, you sure this is what you want to do? I need you here helping me tend the farm. Plus, you're my only son." "Daddy, I got to do this for our country. I'm a man now. I'll be back. I can handle myself. Besides, Mama said that if I don't leave, I'm going to end up dead or in prison because of my temper. Maybe the Army will give me some discipline." "Good luck, son. I know you're not a big religious person, but try to keep the Lord close to your heart." Norvell's mother, Anna, and two of his sisters came out. Anna said, "Mama loves you, baby. Come back to us, and don't get into any trouble." Abraham cut her off in mid-sentence. "Anna, leave the boy be. He's a full-grown man. He can handle himself."
World War I. World War I changed everything. I've always been fascinated with history. And this is right after the Civil War. And, you know, all the slaves have been freed, and then you had the Jim Crow laws and everything that's going on with, you know, what the African-American people have to endure. And so Norvell get traumatized with all this and stuff, and the war is really what saved Norvell's life, because just like he had done so much dirt and terrorized everybody, his mom and dad was afraid eventually if he don't leave, something's going to end up happening to him. So that's why I picked World War I as that date.
After the war, Norvell travels the world seeking adventure, and he winds up in the Belgian Congo.
But now it's called Zaire.
Right. Back then it was the Belgian Congo, and it's there that he encounters the natives who take Norvell on a bloody path of destruction that sadly I can't tell you about, because that would ruin everything.
Well, one of the main messages that I'm trying to get to a lot of people to understand is you can see what happened to a child once they get traumatized. And when you traumatize a child, you mess with their mind, and no telling what kind of effect it have on them. And us as parents, we're supposed to protect our kids from those things.
There is plenty of compelling evidence to indicate that childhood trauma can reshape a developing brain. It can have a profound impact on neurological development of children. It's one of the many reasons why it's important to look out for our kids, especially those in difficult communities or dealing with trying circumstances. But Norvell is a work of fiction, so I'd kind of like to see him released on a band of Nazis. I mean, who knows? Maybe he will be. David plans to write 6 different Norvell adventures.
The book that I have now that's under construction, Norvell Jamison, Volume 2, The Origins of the Monster. It's basically going to say what all that happened to him from the time he was born right before he went off to war. It's going to chronicle his life in between there. And as you thought that this first book was exciting, wait till you read this one. It's up under construction now, even as we speak.
So in the first 2 books, we get to know Norvell and understand him. And then we'll see where life takes him. The good news is Norvell is out there, and you can decide, is he just a bad guy, or is he a bad guy with some redeeming qualities? Check out the first installment, The Adventures of Norvell Jamison. It's available right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all the places where you like to go to shop for books. We put links to the 2 major ones, Barnes & Noble and Amazon, in the description for you. And that's it for this edition of Newsgram from webtalkradio.com.